Hello there, and thanks for joining us on the program Reflections. My name is Yusuf Nadab Usman. Every week on this program, we scan through the Nigerian society and then try to fish out the statesmen among us, the icons, and of course the colossus, if you like. This week, we shall be featuring one of us, and of course one of the greatest journalists we've had in recent times in Nigeria. And we think we shall be talking very much more about himself, of course, about Nigeria, and indeed about what the future holds for the black race. Welcome once again. My guest is Prince Tony Momoh, former Minister of Information and Culture in Nigeria. Born on the 27th day of April 1939 in Awochi Town, Edo State, Nigeria, Prince Tony Momoh attended Government Secondary School Awochi from 1949 to 1954 and Anglican School Ope in 1954. Tony Momoh was a headmaster at the Anglican School Ubuneke, Ivibiaro, between 1958 and 1959, after which he went to Teacher Training College Abudu and later Government Teachers College Abraka between 1960 and 1961. On a sabbatical at Daily Times newspapers, Tony Momoh studied mass communication at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka between 1964 and 1966, and a law degree from the University of Lagos, the Nigerian Law School, and got called to bar in 1975. As a journalist, Prince Tony Momoh rose from a sub-editor at the Daily Times newspapers to the editor and deputy general manager and general manager in 1986. Tony Momoh was appointed Minister of Information and Culture in 1986. In his later years after ministership, Tony Momoh chaired the board of directors of the Nigerian Airways between 1991 and 1993. At the political level, Prince Tony Momoh was the director, Alice Ikome Presidential Campaign Organization in 1999, chairman, Media and Publicity Committee of the All Nigeria People's Party during the 2003 and 2007 elections, chairman, Political Committee of Muhammadu Buhari Organization. In 2011, Tony Momoh became the chairman of the Congress for Progressive Change, the CPC. Prince Tony Momoh, as a lawyer, heads his law firm in Lagos, Tony Momoh & Co. As a journalist, Tony Momoh is a writer with 25 books to his credit, including the famous 3-volume Democracy Watch and his proposal to the National Conference titled To Save Nigeria, Let's Talk. Prince Tony Momoh, the 165th child of King Momoh, refused to take after his father by having only one wife and 4 children. He lives in Abuja and Lagos. Let me say congratulations first. You are 81.
Yes, I am 81.
How do you feel at 81? You don't look 81 anyway, but I know you feel 81.
I feel that I said my working age on earth is 35.
35. Yes. How do you mean?
Because we are in this world, not of this world. And the world of you are of is paradise. You came from there, you are in the school here, you grow and go back there.
Feeling 35, meaning feeling exuberant, feeling young, you know, and the rest of them. Yes. That is within you. But when somebody sees you, you are just more than 35 at least physically.
But the fact that I'm not 80, 81 physically.
You don't look 81 physically, yes, but you're more than 35 physically too.
Yes, I'm physically 81. But I am, mentally 35.
Now let's get down to it. Mentally 35. Yes. May we know the secret of why you're not looking 81?
No, the fact is, if you are born into here, you grow, develop your intellect, go to school, come out, and develop a way of life which may lead you up or down. But I have lived a way of life, learned the way of the Creator, and tried to follow it.
Are these one of the rules of surviving to be younger and growing to be younger?
Actually, you become younger because that youthfulness is a reaping of trying to obey the rules of living.
Right. Can you just translate that to us into a banal situation, ordinary way of trying to understand it?
When I was born, I was growing up. I had my colleagues who were growing up, going to school together. Then when when we're on holiday, they will rush after girls and so on and so forth. I always sat down to read because I was thinking of what I will get tomorrow. You know, at the end of the day, because of challenges I had to meet certain commitments that were denied because I couldn't afford to take the road many people took, I was more with myself. The woman I have today in my life, you know, I started pursuing her when she was 18. I got married to her when she was 22. You know, we had issues. After 6 months, we started living together. We quarreled, but we have never fought. And on the 24th of this month, we were 51 years old in marriage.
Congratulations, let me start with that. You're 51 years in marriage.
Yes.
And then you've come a long way, I must say. Could you take us through into this whole 51 years and how good it's been with you?
I think I'm one of the luckiest women on earth to have come across this man, whom I call my husband today. And I've always said that if there's any incarnation, when I come back, I want to marry the same man. To him, I've always seen him as a father, a friend, and an advisor. Someone you can rely on. For the 51 years I've been with him, I have always had that feel that he's my father. I have never ever remembered, he has never made me to remember that I came from somewhere. I have always seen him to be part of me, and me am part of him. And he has always been like that to everybody.
I really want us to get back to that discipline thing. From the onset,
Yes.
you are disciplined. When you are supposed to be exuberant, you refused. When you're supposed to be, the young lad you are supposed to be running around, you refused. Was that from home? Was it discipline from the parents inside, from the home?
No, we had a very disciplined home. You know, I come from a family I regard as the biggest organized family in the world.
Biggest organized family.
The Momoh family in Edo State. And the ruling family in Aochi, and which is the only emirate system, practices the only emirate system in the whole of the South, you know. And it was established, it was ruled by elders. Then in 1860, someone who was, hosting slaves for the Nupes was installed the Otaro of Aochi because there was a problem between the Nupes and the mother. The Nupes killed the mother, and they expected the man to fight them, but the man didn't fight. Then they said, this man is disciplined enough. So they organized to make him the Otaro of Aochi. I am a product of that necessity. My own father, who was a grandson of Ikelebe, became the Otaro of Aochi in 1919. And then he died in 1944. But during that time, he was, in fact, himself very disciplined, and the head chief that everybody even obeyed, like the British travelers that time who came to that area said, was a very disciplined man. He could speak English. If the British want to do anything in that area, is someone they can, depend on.
Speak English. Was he educated?
There was no formal education. Okay. He could speak English, but he established the government school Aochi in 1922, where lots of people, where his children attended. At the end of the day, he had 48 wives and 257 children. The eldest women headed the compounds. The middle women lived alone. The youngest wives lived with the eldest women. You know, my own mother was one of the youngest wives. And all the women, there was no woman, there was not one of the women who didn't have a child, you know. And then there was none that had more than 4 children. So we had all the women in the family were mothers to all the children in the family.
My concern is about the family, the women most especially. And then they say if they are not in the house is no more there. But if there are many, there are so many problems there.
The British referred to Momoh as evergreen Momoh, that he had a very large family, but did not seem to have family problems. That is how they described him. But I now did a book to mark 50 years of his departure, 1995. And then the title of the book is Each Man His Time, the biography of an era. Because having women was part of showing strength that time, you know. And he was district head. So he supervised many other chiefs who gave him their own daughters as wives. So so those women were by and large the diplomats and the links between him and their parents. So if there's any problem, we'll send a woman, go and meet your father and tell him so. So they were more diplomatic.
Okay, now 250 something. What's your rank in this?
I am number 165 of my father's children. Right. And the president of Taro Fauci is number 90.
Oh, that is interesting. In case you are just joining us, the program is Reflections. We are reaching you from Africa's largest TV network, the Nigerian Television Authority. I've been discussing with Prince Tony Momoh. Shall take more after this break. Welcome back. Let's talk about you. We've talked about the Auchi, the Momoh family. Now let's talk about you. You've been, educated in the Western way, let me put it that way, and I believe also in the Islamic way, in the Arabic way. And going through some of your memos and the much I can say I know about you, you got educated, you become a teacher, you become a journalist, you become, a lawyer, and there you are, you become almost everything. Take us down memory lane. Your education, as you said, you're disciplined in that in order to read, and you kept on reading. What pushed you to
that? I started seriously reading anything. My biography, which was anchored by a professor of the University of Ibadan. They did research for about 7 years. They called it Prince Tony Momoh, a national bibliotherapist and cultural engineer. It was launched when I was 70 years old. Okay. Yes, that's 11 years ago. All right. The fact that I grew up in school, I was leading in every subject, in every exam, from primary 1 to standard 6. Yes. And so when we were to go for, to secondary school, I missed entrance to Edu College. And so those I was leading, obviously, would be ahead of me.
Why did you miss it? How come you missed
I rode Ejo was not the first to ride a bicycle. I rode the bicycle from Auchi to Iwu and discovered the exam took place the previous day. So I was so upset. And I went into teaching. Mm-hmm. And the following year, and I applied. You say from government school Auchi, but I said I was a teacher. I said, they don't take teachers. I said, but I will never tell a lie. So nobody considered me. And I said, okay, I'll go through teacher training. I went through teacher training. And I said, in 6 years, I will get what my colleagues in secondary school will get. So I went for 2 years teacher training and came back and taught for 2 years. That's 4 years. 4 years, yeah. And then went back to teacher training for 2 years. And during that 6 years, I had teacher grade 3 certificate, then had teacher grade 2 certificate. And during the time I was teaching, after grade 3 certificate, because we had to teach for 2 years, I had GC ordinary level and GC advanced level. So my colleagues who were in secondary school, leaving secondary school, were going for HSC. They started using my own GC paper. And by the time I was finishing my my higher elementary, I was qualified to enter university. And then I applied to read estate management. And I was given admission to Reading University. I couldn't go.
Why didn't you go?
I was supposed to I was supposed to be released from bond. You know, you sign a bond. So I resigned. And that is an interesting story. Because in when we just left school, Awolowo schools, 1954, we were applying to be teachers because they were asking for teachers. Awolowo had introduced free education in Western region. And you know, Midwest was part of Western region at that time. Then they said we should pay a bribe of £5.
Right.
Yes, £5.
That was big money then.
That's big money. But they said how we could pay it, they deduct it from our salaries. Everybody paid. I refused to pay. Then I went to Anglican. And the Anglican said, well, you know we can't take you. I said, why? I said, because you are a Muslim. Wow. So I said, okay, I'll be a Christian. They said, Then they employed me. And I stopped being a Muslim and started going to church. You know? And because it was a Muslim who asked for a bribe, unfortunately, I said, I judge institutions by those who run them. I'm no longer a Muslim. Okay. I started going to church. Then they said they wanted to baptize me. Right. I said, why not? But my name is Suleiman. They said, but you'll be answering Tony. I said, yes, but I answered Tony because of Tony Nauru and Tony Eden of England, who bombed the Suez Canal, and I thought he was a tough guy.
Well, that was how the name came about?
Yes, that's how the name came about.
I think it was a bad day name.
No, that's Tony. So my name, Suleiman. Okay. And that's a name, A.S. Anthony Suleiman. Okay. So I said, if you want to baptize me, you baptize me with Suleiman. Okay. Because I later grew, I never came to know in spiritual studies that the name a child bears is the identity of the child, which you must study to know the child. And he brings it from over there and is woven into the mind of the one who we call the name. So you see, this management of human beings comes from over there. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And the more you allow it to come from above, the better. Otherwise, it will come from below. You know? So I became a Christian. And I said, if you are not baptizing me with Suleiman, that was 1958. 58, right. Yes. This time, I had come to know the Bible and so on and so forth. So I joined the Daily Times. On Friday, we were working, so going to mosque didn't arise. On Sunday, we were working, so going to the church didn't arise. I was there, and I got involved in a lot of spiritual works. Hindus and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. You were just reading? I was just reading. So, 1970, I was not a good Muslim. I was not a good Christian, right. You know. But one thing is, while in Islamic schools, you know, when we were growing up, those teachers misled us by teaching us that when you kill a Christian, you are not committed an offense. These things, you know, when you don't know what goes into our heads, yeah. You know, I now discovered that it's a sin to do so. And then I was reading the Bible. I couldn't read the Bible that time because I thought it was an evil book. But I had to start reading the Bible. I came to accommodate Christianity. Then, 1970 or 71, So I was dabbling in lots of areas, reading all sorts of literature, spiritual. Someone invited me to a lecture that was given by Adeyemi Lawson, on the Grail message. So I went for that lecture and was speaking and speaking. I was talking about Muhammad. I asked a question on Muhammad, and he was telling me about Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the man I knew in Islam. What struck me was, he said, look, you are here, read the Quran and do what it says. Read the Bible and do what it says. Do not do what the imam say. Copy the imam or the pastor. Because there is no group journey to paradise. You came alone, you are going alone. That one shattered me and shocked me. And I now accepted Islam and Christianity as a way of life. So when I was asked to be sworn in 1986 as minister, I say I would affirm, instead of swearing the Bible or the Quran. Because even in my studies, I discovered those books are not to be sworn. You don't toy with swearing the Bible or the Quran. So I say, I will swear, I will affirm. So I affirmed. And at the end, I said, so help me God. So when I came out, my colleagues, they say, you are not a Christian. You are not a Muslim. You are an atheist. Oh, why do you say, so help me God? I say, I am both. When they are not quarreling, and neither when they are. So that has been my focus. Right. I am a Muslim. I am a Christian in the spiritual sense. Because religion leads you to paradise. And any attempt to deny that destination is unacceptable.
Let's now get away from that spiritual aspect and talk about the physical world now, the physical world around you and what you went through and the rest of them. You started your surgeon or your journalism practice in Daily Times.
So I came to Lagos and then wrote an application to Alhaji Joseph in the Daily Times. And later, I was pestering them. The secretary of Alhaji Joseph said, look, please wait and see Alhaji Joseph, because they have taken a decision on you and written a letter to your address in Surulere. I said, what's there? They say there's no work.
Okay, for you.
For me. So I waited. When Alhaji Joseph came, I greeted him. He said, yes. I said, sir, I want to be a journalist. And I hear you have written me a letter that I should be a journalist. And I think what you are today, someone gave you an opportunity. So you must give me an opportunity to be a journalist. Otherwise, when I have children, I will tell them that what I wanted to do, you destroyed it. He said, where do you want to, then he said, where do you want to start? I said, at the beginning. So he made me a sub-editor in training. Okay. But I went to report, later I was the sub-editor. And then later, I applied to go to university. They thought I was so good. They said, you don't even need training in university. You are bright enough. They offered me university graduate salary. I said, no, I must go to university because I want to widen my horizon. So I applied to University of Nigeria, Nsukka.
But you were in Lagos there.
I was in Lagos. And only Nsukka was offering journalism. So I applied to University of Nigeria, Nsukka. The first choice was journalism. The second choice was journalism. The third choice was journalism.
Why the crave for journalism?
I wanted journalism, and even I said, I want to be a journalist because Alhaji had put us on a track. And I really wanted to make it a profession.
Had they not given you what you wanted, would you have not taken anything?
Oh, if they had given me any other, I wouldn't have gone. Right. Because there are three choices, and I said, it's the journalism I want. Yeah. So I went, and then we University of Nigeria, Nsukka. And then that's where we were. In the last year, Ojukwu problem started, Biafra, and were thrown out. So we finished the University of Nigeria program in University of Lagos. So what I wanted to do immediately before I went to university was I would study a second degree that would strengthen my journalism. So when I came back, I had mass comm in 1967 and then started putting for law. you know, University of Lagos.
Lagos now.
We graduated in University of Lagos because we finished Usuka program in University of Lagos.
Okay.
So we had a mass comm degree in University of Lagos. I now entered for law in University of Lagos, and then had the LLB in 1974. And I took off time, Daily Times. I was in Daily Times that time, training manager. And then I went to law school, came back in 75. I was called to the bar in 1975. And then in 1976, I became editor of Daily Times. The first, lawyer to edit the Daily Times.
And you even rose to the rank of a general manager.
Oh yes, I rose to rank of general manager, planning and development. Yeah. And later general manager, publication division. And from there, I was appointed as Minister of Information and Culture.
We'll talk about that ministership in a moment. You're watching Reflections reaching you from NTA. We've been discussing with Prince Tony Momoh. We'll have more about him in a while. Stay with us. Welcome back. You have a very huge portfolio, and I would rather refer to you as a colossus as far as I'm concerned, because I find myself it's just like an opportunity and a privilege to talk to you, especially when I go through some of these things you've gone through. As a minister, you become a minister right after from Daily Times, and there you are. You've been so much of a controversial journalist at that time, I remember. Even the fact that there are two strong cases I can remember where you find you double yourself into quasi-politics or something like that. Yes. You had a problem with the Senate, you had a problem with the other representatives, you even went to court. Was it battle out of your lawyer, barrister background, or what is it? Yeah.
As a journalist, I read law, and I tried to specialize in media law. Mm-hmm. And then the anchor was Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which deals with fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. And they say it's non-justiciable. But people, even the lawyers, thought that it was a gift from the judiciary. But the fact is, non-justiciability of Chapter 2 is a provision of the Constitution. The second area was Chapter 2 of the Constitution.
What did he say?
Fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Section 6, subsection 6C of the Constitution say the courts will have no say in that area. Okay. And that area defines the duties, all those who are performing executive, legislative, and judicial functions. In the polity, the duties they must perform. And it's there, you must abide by the provisions of Chapter 2, where you take the oath of allegiance and the oath of office in the 7th schedule. And then Chapter 2 of the Constitution, Section 14, says that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, and from the Constitution, government derives all its power and authority. In other words, the boss in the system is the people of Nigeria. And that power, who monitors Chapter 2, is the press. Section 22. Say the mass media has an obligation to monitor governance on behalf of the people and hold the government accountable to the people.
What doubled you into that conflict with the lawmakers?
Yes. Because what is denied to the legal profession under Section 6, subsection 6C, is given to the press under Section 22. Because you must read the whole Constitution together to know the powers. Yeah. So now, these powers, the media has an obligation, and you cannot do anything to the media. The media is protected. So the media has immunity against undue interference. Although the media there's no freedom of the press, there's freedom of speech, expression in Section 39 of the Constitution. But Section 39(2) of the Constitution says that you can own and operate a medium to express your your views to anybody who's ready to receive it. So what is guaranteed is press ownership, not press freedom. But my own argument was, since you are giving a press duty, in law, according to Interpretation Act, when you give someone duty, you imply the power to perform that duty. So since you are giving the press duty to monitor governance, then the power to do so is implied. It's part of ownership. That has been all my argument over the years. And I've even written books on it, you know, media laws and ethics. So when, for instance, the Senate, 1978, I was already editor of Daily Times. 1978, they were in the Constitutional Conference. And then the Constituent Assembly now came to package what Constitution Nigeria should operate. And then they were doing things which made us, in Daily Times as editor, criticize them. They now said they banned the Daily Times from covering the Constituent Assembly. And I said, no, you can't ban Daily Times. We have power to monitor governance. And so Udoma was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly that I called me, said, look, you know this place, please indulge them. Take your people away for only 2 days and come back. And I agreed. Then when in 1980, we wrote something in Grapevine, MPs, senators, and cards. They had, you know, they came by 1979. There was election in 1979. And by 1980, they were behaving in such a way that we found really disgraceful. An MP will go and say, I want bank loan. The bank will say, this is the condition, collateral. He will bring his complimentary card. I say, I'm an elected person. The same thing, contracts. They were trying to organize contracts and so on and so forth. So we said, senators, MPs and cards, they should not, you know, they should not disgrace the National Assembly. And the National Assembly said, I should come and tell them who among them was doing that.
Some evidence now.
I said, look, evidence, if you want, you go to court. You cannot be a judge in your own cause. So I refused to go. And I went to court and sued that the invitation to me should be quashed. Rotimi Williams stood for the Senate and another son, and then they withdrew the invitation. Rotimi Williams said, if someone invites you and withdraws the invitation, there's nothing to quash. But that was how the thing. But we went and now established the duties, the powers of the Senate, you know, under the Constitution, where they can go, where they cannot go, and so on and so forth. And that was what led to this thing, which is locus classicus, that is taught in law schools and so on and so forth, administrative colleges, to the Momoh and the Senate of the National Assembly.
Was it now the same thing with the House of Representatives much later?
Anytime the National Assembly, State Assembly advise anybody, the lawyer will tell them, to the Momoh and the Senate, unless you what you are inviting him for has to do with your work, right, you can't invite him. Okay. Yes.
Okay. You're just watching Reflections reaching you from NTA, and of course we've been talking with Prince Tony Momoh. We have a lot more to talk about. Now, why can't you stay back for that? You're welcome back. So now let's talk about contemporary issues now. Let's talk about this administration and of course how you happen to find yourself in it after the ministership and the rest of them. How did you come about GMB?
You know, the General Buhari was chairman of PTF, and Auchi had erosion problem. It was eating up Auchi. So someone proposed to Buhari to deal with Auchi erosion and do roads, 23 roads at Auchi, and supply water to Auchi community, Ozaru community, and Satibi community that are neighbors. And Buhari accepted to do so without knowing anybody from the area. So when it was time to fund it, then Obasanjo had come and dissolved PTF, and then didn't fund it. So later, Buhari came into politics in 2002. In 2003, I was the media director of a Kwame campaign in PDP. I was a founding member of the PDP. Okay. So in I supported the Kwame, but Obasanjo won. So in that 1998 in Jos. Then 2003, I also was with Kwame. And then, yes, the same PDP. And then he lost. And unfortunately, that time they started victimizing those who did not support Obasanjo. It was not Obasanjo victimizing them in fairness. But the one we call Mr. Fix-It was calling what do you call it? Calling the shots. Right. So I said I resigned from PDP because I don't like a place where you don't discuss ideas. So I resigned from PDP and I was on my own. I wrote a letter which even Igbenedion, when he quarreled with Aneni, had to cite and distribute in 2005. But I resigned. My community now sat and said, look, we have two of you in PDP, Ambassador Garuba, who contested governorship in Edo State, and you. So since Buhari has joined politics now, in case he wins, we should say we have someone there, so go and work for him. Mm-hmm. So my community, Auchi community, donated me to Buhari, and that's the situation. And I started working with him, and the first thing I discovered was that in media, they were using photocopies of his picture in media. There was no photographer, media had no his photograph. So I wanted to meet Buhari.
But before we get down to that, going through what I read about you, you are not an ardent lover of Buhari.
In fact, I wrote against Buhari. I wrote against Decree 4 in 1984. Decree 4. I preach against Decree 4. I say, journalists live on truth. And if anybody wants to punish you because of the truth you tell, then go to jail.
You had that stamp, but here you are today, at that time really, having to come close to him.
When they said that Buhari said, don't vote for Christians, right. I even wrote in my column, Buhari's gaffe, that he could not be saying so. But Matthew Kuku, conducted an investigation and discovered it was not true. That the person who reported this thing this day did not even did not understand Hausa. So you can see how I goofed, because I commented on something which was not true, So later, I came to understand Buhari. I thought he was rigid, but I discovered that it's not rigidity, it's discipline. And I've always striven for discipline. And if you can say, I am another Buhari, because I sit down in my office here, and I know what he will do and do it in my office, and he won't go against it. Because of what you can call spiritual linkage.
But that's how you did it. Was it the way you became the chairman of the CPC?
I was working as media. Then much later, then the CPC was formed, and I was Ismaila Fontua sent for me because we're very close. I was in media, He said, they say you should come and chair Buhari's party. I say your leg is paining you. Did they ask you to come and play football? So I later agreed to come. And then I became chairman of CPC and led the CPC to the merger. Okay. There are lots of things that will really have destabilized CPC. They say unity government. I say we are not interested in unity government. And if we had been in unity government, there wouldn't have been merger, and there wouldn't have been opportunity for Buhari to be president. They would have sold out to Jonathan, just like the leader of ANPP and the leader of AD sold out to Obasanjo, that time. Then the second one was when we went to court. They removed Salami. And our lawyer said, no, we cannot go any further. Then it was advised that we should withdraw the matter. So unknown to me, they said they gave us the promise of 1 billion and are giving us 500 million to remove the matter. Everybody, it was all over the place. But me, I said, we are not going to leave this matter. We have lost, the matter starts on 2 legs, legal and political. The leg is broken, legal leg is broken. We go on the political leg. So we went to Supreme Court. Okay. And when I called Buhari that we are going forward, he said, what? I said, yes. We are going to Supreme Court on the political one. Because you must make the political history of being the man who was in court more than any other individual in Nigerian history. He contributed to legal jurisprudence, So he said, you have made my day. I said, why? He said, I heard that you people were compromised. I said, and you believe it? He said, Chairman, I don't know what to believe nowadays. So we went to Supreme Court, although we lost in Supreme Court. Then later, we had this CPC. We had this CPC making 12 million votes. We didn't have a councillor. We didn't have a senator. We didn't have any elected person. But Buhari has been dragging those 12 million votes since 2003. And so we had these votes. Then it came to I discovered, I told him, look, you have 12 million votes in the north, but you need the spread in the south. You cannot get that spread unless we have people we ally with in the south. And if it is this alliance, it can be broken anytime. The only thing is merger. So we started pursuing merger. Tinubu, I called Tinubu and Akonde. I said, what do you people want from Buhari? Because I know we were in the Midwest. I know how you people celebrate deceit. You may use him and dump. He said, no, they need Buhari more than Buhari needs them. Because someone can collect 12 million votes. It's not someone you ignore. So I told my boss, I said, look, Tinubu is the one who can market you in the Southwest. Hand yourself over to him. And that's what happened. We started working together. And he said, let us have CPC and ACN, because we can win the election when the Northwest and the Southwest come together. Unfortunately, there was so much enthusiasm to destabilize PDP, and they went hunting for governors to come, which Buhari did not like. But you see the outcome later. They all went back again. Yeah. But all the votes we needed to win, they came to the Southwest. And the highest number of votes outside there in the South that time was CPC, my area, where I was chairman, in Edo State, yes. So we had this merger, and how did we get this merger that the different groups, CPC was marginalized? We had merger because we wanted a forum for Buhari to win. And then everybody made their own commitment. ACN controlled the party structures. CPC had the votes, but not the money. So if you see what's happening now, how a majority of the people were in ACN, then you must understand. We wanted to have the president, and we had the president. But the 12 million votes that we have been dragging since 2003, the question now, the challenge now is, Buhari will live to 2023, and then those 12 million votes will be there. Do we allow him to go to Daura and sit down and ignore those 12 million votes and allow them to vaporize, or work hard enough to see how we can retain them?
Even if it's not there.
Yes. Yeah. But the fact is, I think we are unduly worried, because Buhari told them, those who wanted to see him, when I was chairman of CPC, he was the leader of the party and chairman of board of trustees. They would go to him and I would tell them, look, what you are telling me now is for the chairman. I was the presidential candidate. I'm the chairman of the board of trustees, but I'm a party man under the chairman, so go and meet the chairman. So what I'm saying is that even if he's not if he's not the president today, he will be an honest, faithful, dedicated party man, wherever he may be.
Given the discipline you have all the while, all through your life, and given your closeness to Buhari, which one can see the reason now, what do you make out of the present fight against corruption in this country?
Over governance, you see, the fact is competition. Competition anchors everything we do. Everybody is competing to have a living, to have part of that cake, national cake, that they have been unwilling to be part of baking. That's what it is. If we really have cooperation and commitments, and then minimum government, we'll have solutions.
What do you mean minimum government?
Minimum government, for instance, about 93 areas, National Assembly makes law. And 93 areas, the president executes law. In the federation, it's too top-heavy. We don't need more than 24 maximum.
Oh.
Yes, maximum of those areas, exclusive list and concurrent list. So if you move the powers there to the regions, because we have to have regions and federation units, not 36 states. If you move them to the region and the geopolitical areas have emerged at the regions, now the competition for the center will be reduced. Why should the National Assembly be making law on agriculture, on roads, and so on and so forth?
I don't think you are asking Nigerians or asking us to revert to the regional governments.
That's what I'm saying. Right. And I have, to save Nigeria's stock. I wrote it in 2002 when I discovered monitoring governance every week. I did it for 12 years and have 3 volumes. Democracy Watch, a monitor's diary. When by 2002 I discovered how much we were spending, recurrent, I said, look, if you want to grow, you spend not more than 20-25% on recurrent. The other one should be on development. So democracy, we are spending so much money on democracy. Democracy is the luxury of development. You heard what I said? Yeah. Democracy is the luxury of development. When you have developed, then you take that quantum of freedom, because democracy has to do with freedom. Yeah. You take that quantum of freedom to grow the polity. But we are spending the money for development on the highway.
Any chance to meet you, Prince Tony Momoh, is a chance to ask you about letters to countrymen. You've been writing that ever since, and anybody that writes any letter to countrymen in Nigeria now should be copying from you. What really motivated you to do that, and why are you talking to us now instead of writing the letters?
No, I've been writing letters. The fact is depends on the type of situation. For instance, in 1999, I started to undertake the agenda setting role of the media, because it was not organized. And I started writing point of order, dragging lawmakers, law executors, and law interpreters to the Constitution.
Yeah. I'm talking about the present situation and your own position on political affairs in Nigeria, talking about the decentralization of the power from the center.
For instance, I told you I wrote to save Nigeria, let's talk, in 2002. 2005, when Obasanjo programmed the Constitutional Conference, I gave them 600 copies. No, 500 copies. Then 2014, when Jonathan did the dialogue, I printed 600 copies from my limited resources and gave them. Now, because of what the loud call for the congestion of the political space, I have printed 11,000 copies and distributed freely. Okay. I will give you copies. To save Nigeria, let's talk. That is the thing. We must decongest the political space. How we do it is settled there. You don't even need a referendum. Okay. You can do it within 48 hours.
What do you see of Nigeria in the next 50 years?
Nigeria will be a world leader anchored on spiritual recognitions. And the whole world will be ruled by those who know God Almighty. Okay. In other words, those who organize cooperation, not those who anchor, development on competition.
With this kind of attitude in Nigeria now, and you're projecting that positivity?
No, but the fact that I didn't even know the coronavirus that will grant all of us. The whole world is humbled.
Yeah, sure.
Man has to be humbled. And God has a hand in these things. The world will never be the same again.
You've been Minister of Information and Culture. And of course, you've played a very important role in this, the congesting, I will use that word, the congesting the media. What motivated you to do that? Was it this background of your journalistic profession, or you just felt there was a greater need for it?
I wanted to ensure that journalism is professionalized. But then the area of media ownership, especially electronic media, was government. And I thought the regulation was ripe. Because only the NTA was there to control broadcasting, media, this is broadcasting in Nigeria, and electronic broadcasting, especially television. Then radio was controlled by Radio Nigeria in Nigeria.
These were the monopolies?
Yes, they were the monopolies. So I decongested the broadcasting space, and we had made provision for NBC. Right. And the NBC now started controlling all these areas.
I wouldn't, end up this without asking you this question, really. What do you make of the social media?
Social media is inevitable. The fact is, it had made, dinosaurs of organized media. Yeah. So everybody now is a journalist. So while in journalism, when you go for training, they tell you, if in doubt, leave out. In social media, when you receive, share. Yeah, so that's the difference. So they don't even read. Yes. And the people who manipulate it they are not trained. All you can do is to operate a phone.
But do you think the social media can be controlled?
No.
What about the rules being put in place to regulate it, for instance?
No, you can't implement the rules. The only thing is to see what you can really do. But you can't control social media.
Can you suggest for us some of the ways out?
Is to strengthen the communication apparel of government, public communication institutions. Okay. For instance, if you have a NTA, publishing or broadcasting, biggest station in this thing, it will be the word of NTA against the others. In fact, people are already doing it. They will say social media, unless it's in public media, they won't believe. Yeah. So they wait for approval of what anybody is saying in the social media in the public space. Yes. So we should strengthen this public media. We should strengthen them.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure. For the past 1 hour, I've been discussing with Prince Tony Momoh on the program Reflections. Next week, we shall come along with another personality with whom we shall be talking more about Nigeria and himself. It's our pleasure. You've been there. I am Yusuf Darabu Usman saying bye for now.